The main takeout from my presentation today is that we can actually visualize data in a way that explains the heterogeneity of the consumer experience, both across space and across time. And particularly with the energy transition that's going on, it helps us to understand, it helps us to avoid easy assumptions about where the uptake of new technology is, and also who's benefiting and who's losing. So it's basically providing a more complex picture around socio-demographic characteristics of the energy transition. Data is incredibly important, and making that data available to do good policy analysis. So I think we're starting to see, as was described today with was it CSIRO? Yes, with the CSIRO and the department's NEAR project, the Energy Analytics project, that there's a lot of data that's now being translated into a usable format, and it makes it really easy for researchers like me to combine different data sets to generate insights. And I think the way in which this can benefit policy is to be able to track the effects of policy interventions over time, pre and post, and also just being able to give access to a broader community, so consumer advocates, policymakers, interested consumers, to understand not just how things are changing in terms of their own household, but how this is playing out in their postcode, in their state, and across Australia. I think the key insight so far is that data is important, but we need to think about what we want to use the data for. So the aggregation and collection of a whole lot of data is all well and good, but we need to be really clear about what the research questions or the policy questions that we need to answer are, to be able to really make the case for linking particular sets of data or making available data. And the other key insight I've had is that there's some really common, a common sentiment about increasing the transparency about retail data and how helpful that would be in really making the case about costs to serve and consumers benefiting from lower costs. And I think particularly, I think it's Kirsten from TAS Networks speaking with Rex from Monash University, really talking about how a lot of the data that we need, particularly around a range of households, including vulnerable households, is both hard data, but also comes from different kinds of data. So qualitative data, the sensory, as Rex was talking about, is really interesting. So I think it's, yeah, so I enjoyed that panel the most. I think it's valuable for people in the industry to try and get a sense of, there's so much change happening at so many different scales and in different parts of the sector. It's a great place to come and do a bit of a stock take of what the changes are. I think also having a focus on a particular theme means that we can both go broad but then drill down on what the different elements are. And it's a great place, particularly for consumer advocates, to be able to come and present their experience of that, being at the coalface and interacting with consumers and speaking back to the industry and policymakers and inserting those more experiential narratives into debates. The only other insight I would have is that in this quest for a lot of data and big data, I hope we don't lose the focus on the importance of small data. I think Yolandi Stringers has spoken about this, of what we can learn from the micro and combining larger data sets with the qualitative data experience.